Gentlemen, thank you both for joining me here on Zoom today, our new normal to have interviews during the coronavirus. So a big endorsement for you today. Alan, Senator Pacheco, I'm going to start with you. You have a lot of Democratic candidates to choose from in this 4th district race, and you've gone with Alan Khazei. Did you talk to the others even, or did you always know you were going to endorse him?
Well, it was interesting how I came to the decision because, I myself had looked at this race very seriously early on. Alan and I have known each other for over 30 years. He called me early on out of respect and just let me know he was going to be running and knew that I was thinking about it. And I did look at it very seriously because I ran for this seat back when Congressman Lynch won the race when the district was very different in terms
the old
of
version, yeah.
how it was structured. And my numbers, looked very good, but my wife and I had a good personal talk about what that would mean, and I decided not to engage this year. But I knew that I would want to be involved with the race because it's so important, in particular for the part of the district of the 4th congressional district that I represent. People need to have somebody that understands where they're coming from and to really fight for them at the congressional level to meet their needs. And I've known Alan for 30 years. All the other candidates that I've looked at this race, I mean, for the Democratic Party, we've got great candidates that are running. I won't say anything, negative about any of the candidates that are running in this race. I think we have a group of people to offer up to the citizens of the 4th congressional district. But I've just known Alan for 30 years, and I know he's just not talking about what he wants to do. He's able to point to things like City Year and the impact in bringing AmeriCorps to this nation, and his vision on creating a service movement in Massachusetts, but also across the country. And the connections he's made as a result of that show me and tell me that he's able to pick up the phone as a new congressman and talk to anybody that he needs to talk to in Washington, D.C., or in other states or in other countries, actually, to actually get the job done for the citizens he would represent in the 4th congressional district. I trust him. I like him. I think he would do a great job as the next congressman from the 4th congressional district, and that's why I'm endorsing him.
Alan, we always debate as reporters how much endorsements matter in each race. So make your case. Why is this an important one for your campaign?
I think this is a tremendous boost, and I'm really honored, Mark, that you chose me, after looking at all the candidates. And Mark's a real role model for me because he lives his life and his public service by his values. We both share immigrant backgrounds, his family from Portugal, mine from Italy and Iran. And we both really fight for working people. And this is tremendous. Mark is the Dean of the Senate. He's the longest serving elected state representative and then state senator. I started City Year when he first got elected in 1988. I reached out to him early. He was a big champion of service in the state. He's also led on climate change, fighting for labor, for healthcare, for small businesses, the issues that are important to me and to the 4th district. And everybody I talked to in Taunton and other parts of Senator Pacheco's district, he's beloved because he walks the talk. He delivers for people. And he's ahead of his time. So I think this is a huge boost for the campaign. I'm really honored by it. And I know that, and I appreciate that he's doing this early. I mean, we've still got over 3 months, and we're going to be appearing together. We're going to be doing a climate action forum together. We're reaching out to other people. And I'm just really honored by it because Senator Pacheco's a role model for me. I want to try and do in Congress what he's done so effectively for our state. And I'm also excited to work together with Senator Pacheco for Taunton and the rest of the people in the southern part of this district that that need a champion, as he's been, that need a champion in Washington for small business, for working people, for labor, for unions, for seniors who need health care and Medicare and prescription drug costs to come down. So it's a tremendous honor, and it's a tremendous boost. I know every candidate would have loved to earn Senator Pacheco's support, and I'm really grateful.
Senator, I've noticed obviously that the 4th District stretches down into Attleboro, my hometown, past that into Fall River, and all the candidates are from the tippy top northern part of the 4th District, and you and I both know, Newton's pretty different from Fall River or even, Taunton. Are you concerned about that? About, that we're going to end up with a congressperson who's from up in the northern part of the district where things might be quite different from not just Taunton, Attleboro, but all the way down to Fall River?
I'm very concerned, and that's one of the reasons why I'm endorsing Alan, because Alan certainly lives up there, in the northern part of the district. We say down here, up there in the northern part of the district, but he has his feet firmly planted solidly on the ground of the entire 4th Congressional District. He's worked with people, with young people in service corps that have come from all kinds of backgrounds. People that have grown up in households just like mine. My dad worked 3 to 7 to 11, 7 to 7 to 11, right around the clock. I mean, he worked swing shift. And my mom, an office worker. Alan understands those families and what it's like. I kept stumbling on it earlier, but 3 to 11, 7 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 7 is what was a swing shift. And he understands working families, and he's worked with so many of them over the years that now are in various places in the world, having successful lives because of the opportunity that he provided for them. And so that's what we need. We need somebody here in this district that understands the problems and the challenges that the average family is going through, especially in light of the bright, shiny light that this COVID-19 is showing on the inequities that we have in our society. Alan has been able to do that, not just talk about it, but has delivered on it. And he has pragmatic ways in which you can deal with this with a service corps, creating a health corps, creating an environmental corps, an education corps, things that we're going to need to give young people an opportunity to have opportunity in their life. And at the same time, all of us to have some shared responsibility as to what we need to do to bring community back in our society again. We're all living alone together right now because we have to, but we need to be thinking about how we're going to move forward together to improve the lives in our society here in the 4th and throughout the country, but also to reconnect ourselves around the world in a positive way. And he has that experience as well.
Alan, this is by far the strangest campaign year I've ever covered, right? You guys aren't able to do in-person events, the ballot situation, it's strange on mine. So I can only imagine how strange it is as a candidate, especially someone who's run before. How are you feeling right now? And kind of what do you think is going to be the crucial way to get your message out there and connect with voters at a time where you're not even supposed to shake their hands in the next couple months?
Well, I think, Ted, I just want to emphasize what Mark just said. This coronavirus is exposing the stark inequities. And again, Mark's been leading on these issues for 40 years of who has healthcare and who doesn't, who has access to broadband. I visited Youth Build in Fall River. One of the first things I did, a great service program like City Year. They launched their next class the week before the stay-at-home order, and they can't teach their kids because their kids can't afford access to broadband. They don't have Chromebooks. I'm committed to closing that divide. Who's $500 away from an economic calamity? We're seeing miles of people driving, lining up for food banks. Again, Mark's championed this. So, what I've been doing, even as a candidate, I put out a plan for emergency wage support to save small businesses like St. Pierre's in Taunton or No Joke Smoke in Swansea, to say it should be a grants program, a direct, not through loans, not through the big banks. We have 1.4 million people employed in Massachusetts, over 600,000 small businesses. 50% of our manufacturing comes from small business, especially in the southern part of our district. 70% of our food comes from small business. So I'm put out this plan for service jobs, 1 million service jobs, which would be 2,300 right in the 4th district. And those folks, on average, would leverage another 25 volunteers. So 57,000 people would have a chance to volunteer, and that's what they're doing. So the way I'm trying to get my message out is by putting forward bold ideas. I think we're entering a New Deal period, and we need big, bold, forward-thinking approaches, just like Mark was way ahead on climate change before anybody in the state. And now we have a chance to actually do the Green New Deal. So the way I'm trying to campaign is to try to let people know, okay, and I appreciate what Mark said, I do feel like I have the experience. I've worked in Washington. I've helped to build coalitions to pass 3 major pieces of legislation. I stopped Tom DeLay from killing AmeriCorps when the Republicans controlled everything. I've worked with leaders like Mark. I've worked with every governor of Massachusetts going back to Mike Dukakis. I've worked with every president since George H.W. Bush. So what I'm trying to do is just let people know, here's what I will do if you give me the privilege of serving. I've put more policy on my website, I think, than all the candidates combined. I've put out ideas around what to do about COVID right away. That's how I'm trying to get the message out. I feel like we often say it, that it's the most important election in our lifetimes. This one truly is, because so many people now are suffering, and I believe unnecessarily. If we have better policies to keep people in their jobs, to put people to service, to make sure everybody has health care, to deal with the climate crisis like Mark has been leading on way ahead of anybody, to rebuild the labor movement, which again, Mark has been the #1 leader on that in our state. Because when the labor movement went down, the middle class went down. So that's what I'm trying to do. And I'm finding honestly that it's resonating, that people understand this is different now. There's a pre-COVID America, there's a post-COVID America. And I think that we're going to need leaders both in our state, like Mark, and nationally in Congress, which I hope to be, who understand the moment and the opportunity to do big transformational policies like we did in the New Deal that will fundamentally make the country more fair, more inclusive, and as my parents taught me, as I know Mark's did, more just for everybody, not just for those at the top, but for working people. And that's what I'm committed to.
One last question, not on the 4th district, but for you, Senator. We're expecting Governor Baker to unveil his reopening plan tomorrow, Monday. I'm sure you're hearing from businesses and your constituents dealing with the shutdown and trying to figure out what to do. I'm just curious, what do you hope to hear from the governor tomorrow? And do you think the current approach the Baker administration is taking is the right one for the rest of this month and going into June?
Well, I've got to tell you, and this has touched me, this whole issue has touched me personally. My mom has COVID-19. She is 88 in a long-term care facility here in southeastern Massachusetts, and God bless her right now. Thankfully, she hasn't had any of the major symptoms, and we're waiting to see if she has pulled through this. As you know, my family is going through the same thing that countless families in southeastern Massachusetts are going through. The only contact we have is via phone because we can't see it personally, and I can't visit. So we see each other on FaceTime or other types of technology. That's great. But I hope the governor does what he has been doing thus far, and that's listening to the science, something that has not been done nationally by the Trump administration and those in DC right now. We need to be paying attention to what the science says. Can we slowly start to move forward and open the economy? I would want to know firsthand from the scientists as to how that needs to be done. Certainly, we can't keep the economy closed down forever, but we need to make sure that the numbers are heading in the right direction before we end up with a resurgence, as Dr. Fauci has said, the likes of which we'll all regret, because we'll be back in the same situation. So I give the governor some good marks so far in terms of how it's being dealt with. But that's why what Alan has said about a service corps, a health corps, for example, is so important today. You go into the long-term care facilities, our hospitals, other healthcare providers, they're having a hard time dealing with staff, because when staff come down with COVID-19, they're being sent home to quarantine. There isn't the staff necessarily right there to back them up, to come into facilities to do what needs to be done. And instead of applying the highest standards, that means stay out until you get two negative COVID tests, so we know you're COVID negative, and then come back to work. That's not what a lot of these facilities are doing right now. They're going forward because they need the staff. So they're bringing the staff back earlier. It's a risk to the staff. It's a risk to other staff. And what happens, it's a risk to the patients. So this is a major problem, and I hope he does the right thing and not just react, because we are one of the highest COVID positive states in the country. New York, obviously the Boston metropolitan area, Massachusetts, Chicago, LA, places where a lot of travel takes place and a lot of commuter transportation is taking place. But that's why, what Alan has talked about in terms of the COVID-19 and how we can find our direction going forward with the creation of a health corps, and really have this be hands-on applied learning opportunities. Can you imagine? And I can remember back a few years ago at the Roosevelt Library when Alan and I were there listening to President Clinton at the time speak, and we were talking about a health corps, and we were talking about the fact you could have CRNAs going on to be an LPN, going from LPN to RN to nurse practitioner, and getting training and real world experience between each one of those areas. If we had something like that up and running today, we'd be in a heck of a lot better place than we are right now. Now we have a problem with healthcare staffing and trying to get people in to try to meet the needs of what we are having, not to mention the senior tsunami that is coming in terms of our demographics and the needs that are going to be out there for our society. So that's why I hope the governor does the right thing. And that's why I'm with Alan for Congress, because he's been talking about these things and he'll deliver on these issues. Because when people listen to the solutions that Alan is bringing forward, what they'll hear is something that not only Democrats overwhelmingly support, but Republicans do as well. So everybody supports some pragmatic, common sense, doable implementation of ideas that will help all of us. And I hope the governor does the right thing tomorrow. Everybody, all my small businesses are wondering, what is the guidance going to be? How is this going to work? Does it include them? Are they an essential business? So we'll find that out. He hasn't told us in the legislature either right now. So I'm as anxious as the next person to find out what the details are. I hope whatever they are, they're following the science.
Yeah, if I could just add, Ted, and again, appreciate what Mark just said. First of all, we're praying for your mom, Mark. I know he shared with me about his mom, and thankfully she's okay. And there are too many people who are in a similar situation where they have moms or dads or grandparents who are isolated. And I have proposed 1 million young people in new service corps, leading with a public health corps, that, to safely reopen the economy. And Mark's absolutely, we got to trust the science. We need 300,000 contact tracers. Young people are perfect for this because they understand technology. They can connect to people. We only have 8,000. We should put them to work right now. Also, as a health corps, they could do exactly what Mark said. They could be trained to support the staff. I mean, these folks are risking their lives for us. We need an education corps. I've got a 6th grader and a high school senior, and I can see they're going to school 2 hours a day now instead of 6. There are millions of young people who are going to have to be caught up. We need a climate action corps to take the energy and idealism of young people that Mark's championed to deal with climate change finally. And we need an opportunity corps to fight poverty, to make sure that we're building housing for the homeless like Youth Build does, great program in Fall River, that we're extending broadband to people who don't have it, that we're making sure everybody's getting fed, that we're reaching out to elderly people who are isolated so that they can have a connection like this. There is so much idealism among this generation. We need to tap it. And by the way, my daughter's graduating this month. There are millions of young people graduating this month from high school and college into the worst job market since the Great Depression. If we said to them, will you raise your hand to serve your community and our country, you're going to get hundreds of thousands, millions who will raise their hand. And we need them. So Mark's right, trust the science, but then if we put these young people to work, we can safely reopen because we'll have the contact tracers.